everyone. Welcome back, South Philly Sauce and Audacy Original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels, Ashlyn, Sullvan, Morganti. Here with you, recapping the end of the Flyers' long road trip, a 10-day road trip for the Flyers that was anything but successful. And it's just much bigger stories right now. Truthfully, it just seems like the games are secondary right now, as everyone is wondering what is going to happen to this Flyers team, to this roster, to coaching, to management, because it's gotten to the point, the past two losses against the Chicago Blackhawks, against Toronto, where you frankly just didn't look competitive in these games. And that was the biggest worry, Al, when after the trade deadline, was you never wanted to get to this point. You wanted to still hang in there. And they did at the start of the road trip. Credit to them. They went against some really tough teams, playoff contending teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning, right down to the wire. That's how you wanted to keep pace with this. It's a big ask. It definitely fell off. But the biggest story is the comments from John Tortorella postgame after that Toronto loss, a 7-2 loss. After that second period just completely fell apart. So let's go ahead and play what Torts had to say in that postgame press conference.
It's my job to prepare this team in this type of situation. Haven't done a good enough job past couple of games.
These last two games, are you sensing frustration setting in? Maybe it's a cumulative effect from last week playing well and not getting results?
Well, when you're in this type of situation and you're losing all the time and there's nothing at the end of the tunnel for you, there's certainly going to be some frustration. But this falls on me. I'm not really interested in learning how to coach this type of season where we're at right now, but I have to do a better job. So this falls on me, getting the team prepared to play the proper way until we get to the end.
So obviously what stands out there is all over social media. I know Torts is going to have the chance to explain himself at Morning Skate on Thursday, and he has done this multiple times where, he even talked about it in our interview that we aired on NBC, where he talked about how he wishes he could handle himself better in post-game press conference moments. It is right after the game. It's highly emotional. He says, I screw up a lot where I say things that I didn't mean to say. It's taken out of context. I have a feeling, knowing Torts, this is one of those situations. Everyone's going to hang on those three words. I'm not interested in coaching a team like this and a season like this. I think people are taking it a bit out of context, Al, but I think when you just read that, it is jarring to say something like that.
Yeah, Ashlyn, it's much harsher when you just read the words. When you say I'm not interested, it sounds like I think you use the wrong words. Because it's not a good sound bite, and it's not a good sentence to read. I think it's like I'm frustrated. I think he's acknowledging this is a situation and I didn't think we were going to be in. And I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I certainly don't think he's saying I surrender type of thing. I'm not interested that way, because he never does. When you bench players toward the end, you still push. But I do think he's like, I don't know where to go from here, because there, as he said, the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a big ask of this team. So I'm curious how he's going to. Now, Torts doesn't backpedal much on things that he says, but I think he's going to qualify what that sounded like, and I certainly didn't mean that. He's done this before. I remember he was with Fedotov, I think, about his goaltending last year, where he kind of circled back to that on what he said. But I don't think it's a small issue, Ashlyn, though, when you look at it, on having a coach like John Tortorella trying to squeeze the most out of a team that's just literally going nowhere at the end of the season. So I would like to know how he's going to, I don't even know, do you think defend is the right, explain? Yeah. No, I guess explain what he meant by it, because I don't see any, when you go into these situations and he continues to coach hard, which is how the only explanation for benching people or whatever, there's no way it's like I surrender. I think the not interested, if I'm just surmising, is I want a team that's got a chance at the end. I think he really did believe that this team coming into this season would have another run at least being in the playoff hunt toward the end of the year. This is a long, long time to be out of that playoff hunt.
Yes. And he admitted that. He admitted that in our interview, that he felt like at the beginning of this year, even though the entire Flyers organization took a step back and warned us, hey, don't just assume because you got to the last game, you're automatically in the playoffs next year. Torts told us point blank, I thought we were going to make it. I thought we were going to take a step forward. Instead, they've taken 10 steps back. And I see both sides of this. I see why fans are frustrated. But I just look at the way this roster stands right now. I look at the way the trade deadline went, and I just don't know what you want from this. I appreciate Torts for coaching hard. Would I like a little more consistency as a Flyers fan? Absolutely. Brutal on York to sit him 2 periods. Not the best look. A guy that plays 20-plus minutes made an egregious mistake, and then you see other defensemen making, I think, arguably more egregious mistakes. So that's a little bit confusing where you're not benching the same, but we also don't know the context. We don't know what was said on the bench. Torts has said multiple times, especially in Michkov situations, you guys look at one mistake, assume that's the reason when there's 15 other reasons. I think it'd be worse for Torts, and he talked about this in his interview too, to just turn his eye and be like, you know what, this is done. Let's just stop coaching. Let's just all give up. Like, I appreciate he still cares and gives a crap. Like, to me, that's a good sign, but I think some fans don't see it that way.
No, well, there's no way he's going to quit on a team. I mean, I've seen coaches that kind of do that at the end. They just get frustrated. And a lot of times, this is what's most curious of it. A lot of times when coaches go through something like that, they're upset with what management did. There's a huge difference here.
Yeah.
The huge difference is John Tortorella has maintained that he's very on board with what the Flyers management has done, with the whole rebuild, with the subtractions. So if this was a more normal circumstance where the coach wasn't so in tune with the management,
they were disagreeing publicly.
Right, it would be like, what do you expect of me? Look what happened at the trade deadline. We lost this player. You're sending me out there without any bullets, basically.
Yeah, they are.
He's really been on board with what's gone on. I think the most frustrating thing is because no matter what's happened with this team, losses, whatever, the bottom line had always been they're hard to play against. They compete. Even if they're overmatched, they compete to the end. They're basically, how many overtimes? They've drawn the game into 20 overtimes. Mm-hmm. And that's why when you have that as your kind of your shining medal, and then you go in and you get waxed twice, 7 goals each time, and you got players that didn't respond. That's why I think he's completely frustrated on what's gone on here. And that's where I think the not interested, I think what he's saying is, I'm not interested in having put myself in this position where my team just, there was nothing left to give. I don't know. It's a tough call right now because, I think that benching of York that you mentioned is not a small deal. And we'll have to hear from him whether he decides or Cam decides to say exactly what happened. That's a thing that can really upset a locker room on what's gone on. So we'll see what happens there. But it was you got to say one thing, man. For a team that's going nowhere, they continue to draw the spotlight on them for things that go on here and how they come out of this. It's a really weird thing. And the other part of it is, we mentioned that they play hard. That was like this is one of our tenets of our team. They also have we're a really, really, really tight locker room. How many times we hear that over the last 2-3 years?
Wow, every day.
Yeah. So that strength became a weakness when they removed pieces of it. Farabee, Frost, everything that went on. Ristolainen out of the lineup now. All that's gone on there. I think big
time. I think.
Yeah, there's kind of been a reaction. I think a little overreaction to it. I mean, Lawton, really nice player, good teammate, but you have to let that go. I think they've kind of dwelled on that a little much, but yeah. And their defense, it's like that was the whole talking point. How close we were, it made us play better,
which is great. And I feel for them. We talked a lot about it. 2-3 games, but the fact that we are still talking about this 3 weeks later, and you hear players in the locker room, and I don't want to call names, but you hear someone like an Owen Tippett say, it's harder to be on this side of it than get traded away. Ryan Poehling sounds like he's going to cry in his intermission interview. At some point, you're a professional athlete. It stinks your friends got traded. I get it. But for God's sakes, like someone then step up and take a new leadership role.
Yeah, I think that's, it's fair to say they've overreacted to it. But when you lose people like that with this much time left in the season, even if they're not grade A or a star quality players, the problem, Ashlyn, is look what they've had to come to replace. It's like now you're sending us out, in addition to we're missing these players as friends or whatever, we got AHL players coming up trying to fill in here. We've got, and then now Ristolainen goes down for the season. And on top of that, our goaltending isn't doing anything. And I actually wonder what they're thinking about their power play. What happens there? It's like, everything's mounting up. They grinded it out for 70 games, 65, 70 games. Now it's like, well, where we headed here? What's gonna happen here? You're kind of pleading with their pride, which they certainly have to come out. But when it starts to go wrong, it looks like it's unraveled. That's why I think Tortorella was like, as much as he used the word not interested, I think he's just stunned on what's gone on here.
I think he's stunned on how this has responded. And I think sadly, when it comes decision time, and I think the narrative is going to be, because frankly, I don't see this getting better. I don't think all of a sudden, these 3 games at home, you're going to see stellar effort performances. I fear this is going to be the track record for the last 8 games of this season. The narrative now will become, the team quit on Torts. And regardless of what you've seen all year, you're going to look at these scores, and that's what people are going to say. And that's what people have said the past 2 games. And we're going to have a tough time arguing against that, I fear.
Yeah, certainly that'll be the story always is, did you surrender on a coach? Did you quit on a coach? I don't know going into this. I think that stung pretty bad. These last 2 stung pretty bad. So I wouldn't think, you still look at them, and it's still quality players in terms of effort. So that's why I can't think. I can't think when you run out guys like Sealer, when you run out, even Coots as the captain. Michkov, had a really good game, I thought. So I think there's still something there. The problem's going to be the problem's going to be when you're in this situation and something. Look at the Toronto game. They've got a couple of chances to score, they don't, and then boom, it goes the other way. That's where it gets, you can't let it can get out of hand really quickly that way, because you don't have the skill player to just absolutely, a skilled player or several to kind of just get you back in really quickly. Mm-hmm. That's where I think it can turn around. I would be shocked if this kind of the last 2 game performance is kind of repeated. I'd be really surprised if that happened. I think more than anything, I think that they were kind of stung by it, because they're going to see the reaction to it and come in and play, certainly at home. And
it can get so ugly. Yeah.
They're playing a Montreal team that just really, really, really has to win. The interesting thing to me might be a Buffalo team that probably going to looks like could catch them in this. They could end up the worst team in the East in terms of record. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think they're going to have to apply some things. And I question whether you get the sense from everybody say, well, you don't tank a season because you can't. With the Flyers, always you might say, well, we want a better draft pick, but you want that effort on the ice. This fan base, although they'll accept the rebuild, and they certainly have, they've been in step with Danny Briere and Jonesy and all and Torts through this, but they won't accept getting hammered consecutive games and then coming home and getting hammered again and again.
Right. And I think when you watch these games, and so much is going to be said of Torts and the team quitting on him and coaching and roster decisions, but you look at especially that game against Toronto, and that's where I wish there was a little bit more accountability publicly post-game. Like I wish they would have made Travis Konecny available, because you look at those shooting chances. We've heard Torts say the past 3 weeks, I want him to just take the puck. I want him to shoot it. Stop being patient. Stop passing. We saw 2 grade A chances where we're screaming, shoot it. You got it right there. Then it's a different game. But instead it becomes a snowball effect. And I wish people would look more at those moments, because TK goes and does what Torts has been telling him for 3 weeks. All right, now you're in the game. Now it's a ball game,
Yeah, well, so, Konechny had a couple of really good, he had the good chances. The line played well. TK will generally speak. I don't know if he was asked. I think they asked for York, obviously, and he was not made available. I didn't expect he was going to be. That, to me, I wonder, that situation, I really wonder about as a teammate, to see a teammate, and we don't know what happened exactly. While we
have the first situation that this is.
All we have to go on is it looked like it certainly was a bad particular play there. Then he doesn't play again. But I wonder there, if you're looking at that and you're saying, we need him on the ice. Look what's happening. He's one of our better defensemen here. Look what's happening here at this. What's the point here at this point of the season?
Hanging Andre out to dry. Yeah.
That's the questions you sort of have to ask. Like, are we still at that point with him that's better for him to do this, to learn like Michkov at times? Certainly, you can't argue with the way Tortorella's handled Michkov with benching him. He had a hell of a season coming up.
Or so many young players.
Yeah.
It seems like York and him, they haven't gotten the result that they've wanted with this style of coaching.
This is a far different situation here where it's kind of a, quote, veteran, young but veteran defenseman who, especially with your lineup being banged up by injury and people moving out, didn't we stand a better chance in this particular game to win this game if he just maybe miss a shift and then comes back out? So I guess we're going to wait for answers, hopefully before the game on Thursday, to see what happens. I'm curious to see what his posture will be when he answers these things. If it's, I don't know, apology. I don't know if he's going to be, if he's going to be even more, strident about it. I don't know, but I do, like, we're circling back to how we started. I do think that the words on paper or on text, whatever, or on the internet, wherever, are a little different than when you actually watched and heard him say it. He looked more like a guy, rather than saying, I'm not interested in, looked like guys like, I'm at a loss for how to deal with this situation this year with what we've been handed and our status in the league right now.
No, he looked defeated. I think it was the first time this season we've seen him that way. I also think
he looked like, and to be fair, looked like a coach who wanted to take some of, despite the benching, whatever. It looked like a lot of this is on me. These 2 games with 7 goals. A lot of this is on me. He's saying I'm not interested in having this doing this bad a job for these 2 games as I had here, because I don't know how to navigate where we are right now. But I think it was, a lot of it might have been just the guy saying like, I need to absorb a lot of this instead of my players, because I didn't have them prepared the right way. I didn't have them in the right mindset coming in for these games. So I'm not interested in doing this to myself and my team over again.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like taking a bullet for his team, which he's done so well. And that's when he said, I feel like coaches have to say that I didn't have.
Yeah, they kind of have to. You have to say it.
You have to say it. But like you look at, they were ready to play. Look at the first period in Toronto. Look at those scoring chances. You're right in it at first intermission. Like I took it as they're very much ready to play this game, and then it falls apart.
Yeah, you had to be into it. You're in Toronto. You got to be into it early in the game. Yeah. The problem is I think they know they don't have enough weapons to come back in that situation, especially if the goaltending isn't really, really good. That's where a lot of teams. That's where you just lose it in terms of ramping it up, because you do so much to get back in, and then all of a sudden there's another goal against you. Not that Ersson was horrible in that game. The defense in front of him was abysmal. But that's where it's like, well, now what? We just don't have that arsenal that Toronto has.
Right. No, it's a clear cut difference roster wise on paper, and then you see it in the game, and it's even clearer how far the Flyers truly have to go to be at the caliber of a team like that is playoff, Stanley Cup contention. It's unfortunate, and it stinks for Flyers fans because they've waited long enough, but they are very far away, Al. And I think that's reality is setting in.
Yeah, well, they're far away, and we saw a guy like Marner, and he's going to be a free agent. Like, to me, it's like, okay, now you've got to get a the addition has to start this summer. You absolutely have to start adding players here. And I have no doubt that's where they are in their mindset.
Yeah, agreed. And with all of that, that is South Philly Sauce. Audacy Original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. A whole lot of John Tortorella conversation with Flyers with 3 home games coming up here at the Wells Fargo Center. We'll see how it goes. We'll be back later on this week to discuss. Thanks for watching.